Right. Okay. The lore of the honeybee. In my mind's eye, I see it still. Eugene Mac's apiary in Glencar, that beautiful, secluded valley on the southern shore of Cara Lake in Kerry. That valley where, as one well-known author put it, its old men dream dreams and its young men see visions. On the sunny side of a low rhododendron-clad knock-on, which jutted out like a peninsula from a large wood of oak, birch, holly, and hazel, he had sited his apiary of seedy beehives. The rampant rhododendron ponticum had been cleared from the side of the little hill to provide a well-sheltered site for the apiary, and the slope was terraced in such a way that when you looked at it from the southeast, 4 rows of seedy beehives appeared to stand one above the other, and the hives in each row were of different colours. There must have been 20 of them. Across the waters of Cara rose Seafen Mountain, with its patchwork quilt of little fields, laboriously reclaimed by generation after generation of hardy mountainy men. To the east, the peaks of the majestic reeks towered above the smaller foothills, which were clothed in native woodland. To the north, sentinel-like, towered the mountain of Murren, dotted with little meadows interspersed with thickets of thorn, sally, and furze. Away to the south rolled the level bogland, spread out like a heathery blanket, towards the willow-margined Cara River and the more distant mountain ranges of the ancient barony of Iveragh. Picture this apiary in high summer as viewed from the turf bogs to the south. The purple-flowered rhododendron framed the multicoloured hives just like a fairy town in an ancient wood. The air filled with the contented hum of bees foraging on the bell heather, the breeze laden with the richest of perfumes from the many wild flowers of moorland field and woodland dell, the smell of new-mown hay from the meadows, the bleat of a lamb on the uplands, and the song of the lark in the clear blue sky served only to enhance this scene of pastoral peace. Long before I was capable of reading the lore of the honey bee, I must have learned a lot about bees and beekeeping through my developing senses of sight, sound, smell, and taste. Some early impressions stand out in my memory: the contented drone of busy worker bees, the warning buzz of the guard bee, the explosive boom of a rising swarm, the mysterious odour as propolis was scraped from frames and section crates, the monastic smell as new beeswax foundation melted beneath the hot wire embedder, and the magic aroma of comb honey fresh from the hive. Most pleasing of all to me as a child was the flavour of the finished product, be it a piece of brace-comb honey removed from wooden divider or section crate and dropped into my eager hand, or a section of heather comb honey on the table at tea time to spread on my mother's new-baked scones. Eugene seemed to know everything that needed to be known at that time about beekeeping, and with the curious interest of a child, I watched his many beekeeping activities. The seriousness with which he approached his beekeeping operations impressed me of their great importance. To him, cleanliness in dealing with bees was of the utmost concern. While the external walls of the hives were regularly painted, the internal parts were meticulously cleaned and the floorboards scrubbed until the deal boards were white. There appeared to be various ceremonies in connection with the taking and hiving of swarms, the preparation of bar frames and crates, and their removal when filled with sections of snow-white comb. The Calvert's carbolic acid, the goose quills, and the clean white cloths filled me with awe, and an abiding respect for this wonderful little creature of God and for the old bee-master, my father. Eugene had learned his beekeeping in the early part of the last century from a lady beekeeping instructress who was employed by the congested district board. On her bicycle, she travelled the roads of South Kerry and many a mile on foot to visit isolated hillside farms where she taught modern methods of bar-frame beekeeping to beekeepers who up to then kept their bees in the traditional straw skep. Eugene was an avid reader and holding pride of place on his bookshelf beside the Department of Agriculture's Manual of Instruction in Beekeeping and the Practical Bee Guide by Digges was a book entitled The Lore of the Honey Bee, which had been given to him by this lady beekeeper. When in later years I read this book for the first time, it created an impression in my mind, which gradually flourished into a rather severe case of bee fever, and this appears to grow worse as the years go by. What with Eugene's fairy apiary and the lore of the honey bee, I eventually became well and truly hooked. Fortunately, there seems to be no known cure for the addiction or for the malady. Today, as I sit and listen to the contented hum of a beehive, my mind flies back to the wild, flower-filled meadows and melodious woodlands of Gortnagown. As I breathe in the rich aroma of freshly garnered nectar that emanates from each busy hive, my thoughts drift back to the snowy hedgerows, so richly laden with the perfumed flowers of the hawthorn, and the heather-clad hillsides where my bare feet kicked up clouds of pollen dust as I ran light-footed across the purple slopes. In the springtime of each succeeding year, the hive mind tells the scout bees when to set forth in search of the necessary food to renew the life of the honeybee colony. Just as each spring my parents' garden burst into life, and the fresh green leaves unfolded to reveal each perfect wildflower in our native woodlands, so with each lengthening day of spring is my interest revived in this wonderful ancient craft of beekeeping.